What's up guys, welcome back to Pat Outdoors. Today we're going to be working on the Tuttio. Got a bunch of parts come in the last few weeks for this project, so I'm excited to show this bike some love since we actually haven't touched it since it was snowing outside. And I'm just going to apologize ahead of time. I might have a little bit of a lisp today just because I managed to bite my tongue in my sleep last night. So I will do my best to speak as normally as I can. And look at this thing, still covered in salt because it was snowing when we last rode it, but I think this thing looks a lot better than a stock Tuttio. Really happy that I blacked out the wheels. I think it makes quite a change in the visual appearance of the bike, especially the CRF 50 fender on there. So much better than the stock one. Number plate, put a headlight on, tail light and whatnot, but we're actually gonna be doing a few more visual changes to this bike today, along with some performance changes. I also wanna go over some more frequently asked questions that I always get on my videos. I also noticed quite a few people commenting on my first Tuttio video about how oddly loud it is, and that's actually mostly due to this plastic chain guide that's on the swing arm. It's like pretty much hard plastic. I have a solution for it today, so hopefully that's gonna make it a lot quieter as well. First thing I wanna modify is the seat. I think in stock form, it just looks a little plain. One solid color with no patterns. I think it looks a little odd how it just blends right in with the frame, so just gotta do something about it. So I was super happy with the new seat cover that I got from Bolts & Volts for my ETM RTR. So I had them make one for the Tuttio as well. What I really like about it is it's custom tailor fit for whatever bike you order it for. This is not just like a universal one from eBay or Amazon. So you can see all the edges are perfectly cut to the pattern on the bottom side of your seat. So there's gonna be very minimal massaging needed to get it to fit 100%. I really just like the craftsmanship. Like, check out the stitching on this. I'm just using a regular staple gun and some shallow T50 staples to put this on because I do not have the funds for an air stapler. God. Don't you just love having a neighbor with a 350Z with a stupid exhaust on it? It's already starting to look really, really good. You can already tell how tight it fits on there. Just gotta get rid of this little bit of a gap in the middle. And here's a closer look at how that turned out. Look at that. Considering I am not a professional by any means, just a regular dude stapling along and massaging it in place. Even that wrinkle in the middle just went away on its own after I finished. Super happy with how it looks and how it fits. So shout out to Bolts & Volts for making such a quality product. I believe he makes these covers for the Razors, the SX and MXs, the Bomb Moto, and also the ETM RTR. Obviously the Tuttio, I think, is one of the newer products that he has. If you want to check out his website, I'll have a link to it in the description below, along with his Instagram, which is Bolts & Volts 24. Yeah, I think it looks a lot better versus the stock one. At least this separates the center from the sides. Let me know what you guys think. So I've been asked a few times how to turn the fork and the rear shock to a different color. Like, do you paint it? How do you paint it black? The answer is you don't. I just don't think that your standard spray paint is gonna hold up long-term as the suspension compresses, especially for the spring on the rear. It's just gonna flake right off after a few rides. And same thing with this material on the fork. I just don't think it'll reliably hold up. I think the proper and most reliable way to do it is to just replace it with ones that are already a different color. So these fork tubes are from Ride or Die, along with this rear shock, which is a direct replacement for the stock one. It actually looks like it's the same exact one, except this one already comes in a nicer finish. Also gonna be replacing the kickstand with another black one. They also sent over a bunch of decals and some koozies, which is awesome, though I don't know what these straps are. Looks like something that you would put on the fork maybe. If you happen to know what these are for, please comment below. To take the rear shock off, looks like you're gonna need a 5mm Allen. I'm just gonna use this socket, but on this bottom left side, we're probably gonna have to take off the chain slide since this tab seems to be in the way of this. So we're just gonna take this off first, pry that out of the way, then we're gonna loosen the hardware. Looks like you're also gonna have to loosen the seat as well, so you can push it up and make room for the socket here. It almost seems like there's a separate piece that goes on the inside. That's exactly what I mean. It's like there's something else. Like there definitely is something else that goes through across. So I wonder if I just punch that out. Oh, okay, so that's how it works. You just have to punch them out. Here's a closer look at how that dowel is set up. I just used this since it happened to be perfect size to go through. So I'm just gonna leave this on there so when we get the new shock on, we're just gonna punch it back in towards the right side. That's how you take that off. So that's how I'm leaving it. I'm punching it to the left just enough so we can pull the shock out. Then when the new shock goes back in, we're gonna punch it inward. This might be a little easier with two people, but I'm just gonna wing it. Oh, got it lined up. Just gonna leave the chain slide loose since I'm actually gonna be replacing that with something that has a little bit softer compound. And here's how it looks installed. All the bolts fully torqued and seated. Definitely looks a lot better in comparison to the stock one. And then for the kickstand, I'm just gonna match the length first of the original one, and then we're gonna mount it on. What's strange about the new one is it seems to be missing one hole here in comparison to the original one. I'm also gonna be leaving out this piece because I've always found that to be a little dangerous. And it's also not the exact same black as the original one. This one is not as glossy as the new finish. The bolt for the kickstand is 17. So you can see even that piece is a lot shorter on the new one. The new bottom piece is also a little bit longer than the original, so I'm actually gonna move this up one notch. Yeah, for it to be the same exact length, you had to move it up one notch on the new one. Just the right amount of tension. Definitely looks a lot better than the original one. Now let's move on to the fork. Since we're just installing the tubes, I'm gonna try to minimize the amount of stuff I have to disassemble up top. But I'm gonna start off by removing the front wheel, then the caliper, maybe the fork guards, and the front number plate. Then I'm gonna try to slide out the current tubes and go from there. Be careful if you're using a 1/4" drive impact. You don't want to use this to torque any of the stuff for the fork. I'm just being gentle with it to speed things up for removal, but I'm going to torque everything down by hand when we put it back together. I'm just using the standard Tuttio front plate that's available on their site. I just flipped it backwards so it's nice and plain. The bolts for the triple tree clamps are 6mm Allen. A simple change in color makes this thing look a lot less like a toy. So there are two spacers for the axle. The slightly longer one always goes on the side where the caliper is. I actually wasn't too happy with the kickstand height. I think it was leaned over a little too much, so I'm lowering it down to the second to lowest setting, about a ½ an inch over the stock lane. Yeah, extending the kickstand a bit has the lean just right. It's crazy how just changing a few minor things could really change the overall presence of a bike. Before we continue, if you're enjoying today's video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you like these type of projects, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn your bell notification on. If you are interested in checking out any of the parts used on this Tuttio project, I'll have the full parts list in the description below. You can also get yourself 5% off any Tuttio or Razor parts on the Ride or Die website using discount code PATOutdoors. We're going to be replacing the original chain guide that's made out of hard plastic with one that's made out of a much softer material. This should definitely quiet down the Tuttio. I believe if you have a later production Tuttio Soleil, you might already have this chain guide, but if you have one from last year like I do, it's probably going to have this stiff plastic one. Dang, I might have to loosen the motor just to shift it over to the right to make more space to pull this out. Should still be pretty easy though, just the 4 bigger bolts at the bottom. Just like that. Yeah, as you can see, the new one is definitely a lot more flexible than the original one. So I'm thinking that the new one's going to be able to absorb a lot more of the chain noise. It's just held on by 2 bolts, one up top and one at the bottom. Now we can bolt the motor back up at the bottom. Might have to loosen the chain tension a little bit. I'm going to loosen the rear axle and move the axle blocks forward a little bit. The adjustment bolt and the lock nut are 13mm. You want to make sure that you're adjusting it evenly left and right to make sure that the rear wheel is tracking perfectly straight. Just the right amount of slack I'm looking for.
Since I already have the Bluetooth dongle installed on my controller, I'm able to connect to it with the Fardriver app on my iPhone. So you can see we're already connected. Now we're able to make some changes to the current tune. At this point, I'm pretty much just going to be inputting these tune settings by Ryan Goodyear. I actually got this from Voltron Watts' YouTube channel, and I think he got pretty decent results considering he is 20 pounds heavier than me. With a completely stock Tuttio at the time, he was able to get 37 miles per hour. Now since I'm a little bit lighter than Voltron and I also have a different size rear sprocket, figured we'd try out his tune settings and see what kind of results we get. At this point, I'm pretty much just going to be copying everything over to the app, so I will throw all these settings up on the screen. One thing I am going to change is the max line current. I'm just going to set that to 70. Then the most important step after you've made your changes is to click save. And let's see how it performs. What the heck? I've never had to do that. Suspension feels nice and smooth. No odd noises. It does sound like it's a little bit quieter than before with the new chain slide. Let's see what the new top speed is with the new tune. Looks like the new top speed for the Tuttio with the stock motor, stock controller, and stock battery with a 53 tooth rear sprocket is 41 miles per hour, which is pretty much what I had it at before. Obviously I had a 72 volt setup on this at one point. I am interested to see what new motor controller combos are coming out for the Tuttio. I saw that Electro Co had a listing up, but it didn't have much information on it. I know Sotion already has the FW23 motor and controller upgrade available for I think around 600 bucks. Let me know if you guys have a specific suggestion or if you happen to know more information on the new Electro kit. I'm really interested to get more information on that because I am looking to get more power out of this bike. Now, one downside of having a smaller rear sprocket is you do lose quite a bit of the lower end torque in trade-off for a couple miles an hour top speed. But it doesn't really bother me too much since this setup is pretty much temporary. You already know that we're going to be shooting for more power. Minimum 72 volt with 5,000 watts on this bike. Now, if you guys enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you like this kind of content, want to keep up with some of my bike projects, some of my builds, consider subscribing to this channel and turn your bell notification on. If you are interested in getting more information on any of the parts that we used on today's project, I'll have everything linked in the description below. But this is going to be it for today. Thank you for watching.